So first of all, I just want to say welcome and thank you so much for being here, joining us on Zoom. I know that not everyone needs extra Zoom sessions in their life these days, so we appreciate it. Um, if you haven't already, I see we've got Emma, I believe, coming in to join us. Emma, you can just put in the chat your name and where you're tuning in from and your preferred pronouns if you would like, if you're a parent or a prospective student. And that'll help us follow up. Unfortunately, we won't have time tonight to learn more about each of you, but if you don't mind putting that info in the chat, it helps us feel a little bit more oriented to everyone here. And with that, we're gonna just do some quick intros and then we'll hop in to all of the pieces. All right, so my name is Maddie, Maddie Johnson. I use she, her, hers pronouns, and I'm the marketing and recruiting coordinator. I also taught on TTS 33 and TTS 34 in Southern Africa and South America. I was the literature and global studies teacher. And I'm really thrilled to connect with you all this evening and across your application process. And I'll send it over to Anne.
Hi, everyone. My name is Anne McBride. I use she, hers pronouns. I am an alumna of the 22nd semester in Southern Africa, and now I work in the office as the development and program assistant. And I'm really excited to share the magic of the traveling school with you all.
All right, so I'd love to start by bringing us all back in time a little bit, back in the year 2000, when our fearless founder, Jennifer Hartman, decided that she wanted to start a school. She named it the Dream School for a while before it was formally known as the Traveling School. And it was just that. It was her dream. She was a high school teacher, and she spent her days envisioning learning that went beyond the classroom, that was allowing girls to travel the world, fully engaging in a region to learn firsthand about its history and its people and challenges, and of course, its heroes. She really believed that this school should mix experiential academics along with outdoor and cultural activities. And ultimately, it would be more than just a school. It would be a place where students become community and they are getting to know their teachers and their classmates as their co-learners, but also their friends and role models. So the traveling school, which was Jennifer's little dream school, launched its first semester in the spring of 2003. And since that time, so many talented and committed students and teachers have helped us realize her dream. Today, 17 years later, the traveling school is still providing exceptional semesters that serve as a catalyst for young leaders to return home from their dream semester with the confidence, insight, and dedication to become agents of change. Across our 17 years now in operation and 36 semesters, we have brought students to South America, Southern Africa, Central America, New Zealand, and now for the first year ever, our own backyard here in the US. We've been so energized building partnerships with people we know as friends and developing itineraries that thread through the places we explore and love on our own. If you don't already know, our office is based in Bozeman, Montana, and it's just 7 adventurous women in that office together. And we've all been busy this past year creating an itinerary that reflects our favorite places of the Mountain West. And we've written new curriculum to center their untold and unheard stories. That was the majority of my summer, was writing a 600-page literature textbook to reflect this place that we call home, which is a lot more authentic, I think, than me writing a curriculum about Africa. So it has been able to bring our dream to life of sharing this part of the country and the world with so many young girls. With that, bringing us back to the year 2021, we are hoping to keep this conversation efficient, to respect your time, keeping it close to 40-45 minutes, if not a little bit under. We'll go over the TTS mission and vision, hop through some semester specifics, get Anne to share some stories of her semester, of course, acknowledge COVID and our approach to risk management, and then go through application details and scholarship information. The last bit will be a Q&A that I'll first facilitate with just Anne, hearing some bigger picture reflective answers of hers, and then opening up the floor to you all to ask your questions, be them open-ended and reflective or more nitty-gritty. And then we'll close it out, say goodnight, and make sure that you all feel prepared moving into the next steps of the application process. All righty, so if we zoom out a little bit, the traveling school really does have this amazing mission of amplifying girls' voices through our transformative place-based academics to ignite positive change. It gives me kind of chills every time I say it, because I've seen it happen in action and I just believe in it so truly. Our bread and butter at the traveling school is just that. It's bringing curriculum to life by integrating and listening to the stories of the places through which we travel and the people who live there. We are different from some of the other semester schools that you might know of in that we're the smallest. We just have 12 to 16 students, more on the 12 side, and 4 teachers. And we're the only all-girls semester school, and we are the only semester school that doesn't have a campus. So instead of a traditional campus, we are bringing our 9th to 12th grade girls or 15 to 18-year-old girls on a road trip through the Rocky Mountain West while tackling 5 rigorous place-based courses and living out of a backpack and being unplugged from technology, really using the places and people of our destinations as our classrooms and teachers. So like I said, we are unique in not having a home base or campus. Instead, our students weave their way from Montana to Arizona across their 15 weeks with us for this awesome journey where they might set up camp for a whole week at an organic farm in Montana, learning about medicinal plants and sustainable agriculture directly from the farmers, or they might trek through the Tetons in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, sleeping under the stars and learning about glaciology and native peoples and different stakeholders in our reliance on oil and gas in class along the way. So the nature of our academics drives the intimacy of our student and teacher communities on semester. Your history teacher might be teaching you a lesson about race and privilege as it relates to the events of the past 2 years, just hours after she was belaying you up a Red Rock slab in Moab, or hours before she helps you whip up, I don't know, macaroni and cheese dinner as she's a part of your cook crew in the backcountry. I'm going to turn it over to Anne to speak a little bit more specifically about how our 4 pillars at the traveling school come alive in some form every day.
Thank you, Maddie. So the 4 pillars that you see here on the screen really define the traveling school, and they are cultural immersion, outdoor leadership, place-based academics, and intentional community. And I'm gonna dive into them so you get to know a little bit about what we mean with each one. Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Maddie. We'll start with intentional community. The creation of an intentional community really defined my time at the traveling school. Before my semester, I really hadn't spent much time away from home, and certainly never with a group of all women. So it really changed the way that I see travel, outdoor recreation, and even community itself. Living with such a tight-knit group of women was amazing because it really helped me feel like a valuable part of the group. You may know, everyone's voice is vital when you're living, working, and playing together every day. So the culmination in my eyes of our intentional community was the creation of our Warm and Fuzzies for our last night together. So basically we wrote something special or a favorite memory, something of the sorts about each and every other person, so teachers included, and exchanged them all in a little graduation ceremony. It was so beautiful. They helped me through like initial sadness of leaving the group, and I still have them with me to this day as a nice memory of our time together. So, of course, first and foremost, we are a school. We do a lot of cool things, but we also learn. So academically, the traveling school, I think, really helped me fall in love with learning again. I was really able to tap into my own curiosity and passion for learning through having classes that were applicable to where we were, and fun, creative, sometimes goofy, even lessons that were really never dull. One of my favorite lessons, for example, was a history and global studies kind of mashup, in which we spent a few classes learning about the history, politics, and controversies surrounding diamond mining in Namibia. Never thought that would be something I was learning about. And this was all in preparation for a tour of an abandoned diamond mining town in the desert, where we later hosted a debate where we got to present arguments as, active players in the diamond debate. So the Namibian government, mining corporations, local citizens, etc. So really never a dull moment in our quote unquote classrooms in the traveling school. An outdoor adventure. Oh my goodness, this is maybe something that changed the most for me from the beginning to end of my traveling school semester. It was really central to my personal development over the course of my semester, at this point 8 years ago, trying a range of activities that I would really never dream of trying at home, like surfing, rappelling down a waterfall, which is the picture you can see in the bottom left. They really built up a sense of confidence and achievement that my classes, my teachers, and my fellow students really just complemented perfectly. And so I think personally, going from my home school's PE philosophy of go walk a mile around a track and then kick a soccer ball for 30 minutes to the traveling school's PE classes of, hey, today we're gonna summit a mountain, it was pretty groundbreaking for me. It was pretty special. And last but certainly not least, cultural immersion. And you'll see a couple of, actually a majority of photos here are from our current semester out in the field, which is really lovely to see. We've approached this through the lens of the US having more cultural layers than we often acknowledge. So the goal of our curriculum and itinerary is to really amplify that. Coming from all sorts of backgrounds, our girls will use the places we go to examine their own identity and the identity of the communities that they're in and the US in general. So already on this semester, our girls have gotten to hear from and engage with local conservationists, Indigenous leaders fighting to protect Bears Ears National Monument down in Utah, and harvest food with farmers while discussing the impact of climate change on their work. Just hearing these stories trickle in makes me so jealous of their adventures, wishing I could live it all again, but that's where y'all come in. And speaking of farming, let's take a look at a mock schedule. So they're always displayed on those little whiteboards you see up there in the top corner. This is a mock schedule because days at the traveling school really never look the same. Some days you may have a full class day that would be more akin to what you're experiencing in your home school, with breaks to snack and move your body, etc. But some days we have full adventure days where we wake up from a backpacking trip, we pack up camp, have some food, and start our hike to the next campsite. We do also have full travel days in which we're spending hours in a bus or a van heading to our next destination. I actually really like those days. They give you a chance to rest, work on homework assignments, or have communal karaoke sessions, or really all three. But more often than not, I would say our days are kind of a little bit of a mixture of all three. So you may have classes, adventure, travel. Let's say you wake up early for a run in the mountains, then you prep breakfast with your cook crew, and then maybe you hop into a class or two, pre-calc and history, something like that. And then in the afternoon, you may transition to a farm visit, a museum tour, a guest lecture that complements what you learned the morning of in your history class, or even all of the above. So our days are certainly full. They're very full. And we don't really have weekends in the traditional sense. Instead, we have free time, study halls or longer work periods, and town time to explore on our own. but always under the supervision of teachers and the boundaries that they've established to keep the group safe. It's a great time.
Thank you, Anne. All right, so who are these people that choose to leave their homes, their creature comforts, and do school on the move for 15 weeks? They are amazing. This group of girls on the screen right now are my students from TTS 34. We were in Botswana on the salt flats. I think there's meerkats around the corner somewhere. And it's so amazing for me to look at each of these little faces on the screen right now, because not only are they from so many different parts of the world. We've got Celeste there in the middle, who was from Montreal and had never been reading or writing in school in English before her semester with the traveling school. She was a French speaker. We've got Leah from Detroit, Michigan, and she was being homeschooled because the public school system wasn't serving her there. We have Alex from a very small town in Virginia growing up on a farm, and Jane growing up in San Francisco in the big city. We also have the occasional girl who's coming from not the US. So right now on semester, we have a girl from Tel Aviv, Israel. And on the semester before this one, we had a student from Ecuador. And when we get those students, that's really exciting, but should not minimize the fact that already in a US-based group, we have incredible geographic diversity and also just diversity in what stories these girls have grown up with. I think that number actually has increased, and correct me, it's more like 60% now are on need-based scholarships.
Correct. Yeah, normally 40 to 60%.
Okay, there we go. The range 40 to 60% are on need-based scholarships, and that is also important. These are not all girls that identify as the top 1%. They often work really hard to fundraise. They are applying for need-based scholarships. They are grateful when they are there, and I completely felt that on my semester. And that matters to us. That's one of our big priorities in our bigger strategic plan, is making our semesters as accessible as possible. So we'll speak to affordability a little bit later, and especially in the parent webinar that you'll have if you choose to apply. But if finances are feeling tight and potentially what will make this semester inaccessible for you or your daughter, start that conversation. We want to support you. These girls are also academically motivated. They're willing to try new things. Like I said, if you're a girl that is excited to leave creature comforts behind for 15 weeks, you're a certain type, and we love that type. They are also ready to be a selfless member of our community. We start right off the bat on semester as faculty, establishing group norms and having everyone sign like a code of conduct kind of thing, or a community standard contract, and we set that tone. We are excited to support all types of people, but the one person that makes our jobs much more difficult and our spaces less safe for our community is if we've got a girl who is not on the same page with those norms. So that's where really my job comes in, and I value my job, which is during the admissions process, we are selective. We will not accept just anyone who wants to do the traveling school. We're intentional about building a cohort of young women that will really come together as a family, as a sisterhood, and support one another in this journey. On that note, we look for applicants who are committed to rigorous academics and this adventurous life on the move, and an intentional community with limited connection with home. They won't have their phones, they won't have laptops, they'll have limited Wi-Fi and limited opportunities to connect with people back home. And we also value individuals who are ready to advocate for themselves and their community, who are grateful for the experiences, but also know how to stand up for something that might not be feeling great. We are seeking those who are able to rise to the challenge of this unique semester. You know, they can hike for 10 miles with a heavy backpack at altitude. Maybe it starts raining, maybe it's really cold. They're able to adapt to these rustic living conditions, and all the while treat their peers, teachers, and any local guides or partners with respect, even if that day is hard. And we know that that doesn't speak to everyone, and that's okay. Part of the admissions process is making sure, like I said, that we're a good fit for each other. And with that, we've created this list of essential eligibility criteria to guide students and families through the more fundamental requirements of participation on a traveling school semester. This document lives at the top of our Apply Now page, and I think Anne can also insert it into the chat if you haven't yet taken a look at that document. And we do ask families to review the document before submitting an application, just to ensure that we can support you just as much as you are excited about us. And don't worry if the idea of carrying a heavy backpack at altitude in the rain makes you a little bit nervous right now. That is also okay. Like Anne was saying, her traveling school semester was the first time I think that she slept in a tent or camped at all or really hiked much. So we embrace those kinds of students as well. And we want to create a culture of not just safety, but also of support so that they can really thrive and grow into themselves, even if it doesn't come as naturally to them at the start. And that goes for, independent learning plans as well. If you need a specific type of plan to support your learning style or any disabilities that you might have, we are excited to start that conversation. We can't support everything, but we support a lot of things. And as long as it's conducive to the sustainability of our teachers' positions and also their boundaries, they are not mental health counselors. They are incredibly talented teachers and guides and mentors, but there are also those fine lines that we want to respect so that your daughter and yourself are feeling safe. All right. On to the fun stuff. Not that it all hasn't been fun, but where will you go? So on semester, you will explore the epic landscapes of the Mountain West of Montana, Wyoming, Utah, Colorado, and Arizona. You'll be listening to the profound stories. You'll be listening to the people who live there. You'll be getting dirty in their dirt and their rivers, and it will be pretty incredible, I can assure you. You'll be living out of a backpack and moving homes quite often. So this might mean you're rafting Colorado whitewater, hiking through deep desert canyons or over high Rocky Mountain passes, learning to climb on tall granite walls, or closing your eyes while shooting stars are beaming through the night sky. Fall semester will travel from the north to the south, so Montana down to Arizona, and then spring semester will flip south to north, and that will just accommodate some extra warmth for you all. Everyone on both semesters will practice planning a menu and cooking in the backcountry, rolling up tents and packing gear. Consider discussing immigration law at the Mexican border for global studies class, and then maybe doing a citizen science project observing elk in Colorado for natural sciences. You might then be reading stories of race and power and privilege amidst dispossessed Indigenous homelands in Utah for literature. And you might also be getting a guest lecture from folks like Betsy Quammen, who just spoke with our girls up in Montana. On semester, your home will become a lot of things. It might look like this: rural campgrounds, might be a small town hostel, might be backcountry cabins, organic farms, mountain ranges, sandy riverbanks, and everything in between, which is why we like to think of the traveling school as a verb. You're on the move, you're evolving, you're learning, you're understanding and connecting. And on semester, you will develop lifelong friends and mentors. You'll redefine your classroom, and perhaps most importantly, you will unveil the most authentic version of yourself. Risk management is a big part of our job, and it's imperative to our planning. We acknowledge risk is all around us every day, and our job as a school is to make informed decisions to maintain our risk management goals. We don't guarantee safety. We can never really guarantee safety in any of our lives, but we can focus on good decision making and conservative choices to preserve the health of the group for a prolonged period of time. Everyone, students, teachers, parents, and administrators are responsible for helping us uphold our safety practices and protocols. From clear communication and transparency during the admissions and enrollment process to daily actions and protocols on semester, we each participate in risk management for the group. Right now, of course, COVID is on everyone's mind as the flashing red light of risk, and it is an objective risk. We are already aware of it, but it isn't the only risk. However, it's a big part of why we chose to pursue a domestic semester for the first time, which we're now so excited about. And as we plan for our semesters, we're thinking about everything from how to bring students together and form a pod to how to safely travel and interact with other people and communities while still fulfilling our mission. We're thinking about sleeping and eating and communal living and quarantine issues. And these are big questions as we have seen in the outdoor industry. Practices continue to change as everyone learns more about the virus. We are in open communication with other semester schools and outdoor programs, learning from their experiences this past year and currently developing new practices to implement for our upcoming semesters based on the successes and some challenges from this current semester. That said, I would love to just acknowledge that our current semester has been able to test every few days, and we have had no positive cases, no potential scares, no quarantines, nothing. And it feels really good to have that group as an official pod that for the most part can operate without masks unless they are, getting a guest lecture. A couple of days ago, they got a guest jiu-jitsu class where they did have to have masks on for the occasional support session where they had to be within 6 feet of the teacher. So overall, we know risk management is a big topic and one we can't possibly cover in just a few minutes, but we will go through more of the risk management specifics and especially COVID protocols with you if you do pursue an application. We'll have a session with all parents where we will have our academic dean and head of school chat with you about what all these things look like and answer all of your questions because we know you've probably got them. All right, back to Anne.
So by now we've kind of covered the who, the what, the where. Hopefully the why has come through, why the traveling school. But my last plug from here is that after a year like the last 2 years, why not? If you want to jump into a semester of personal and in-person community after over a year of online classes and just feeling strange in the world, this could be your chance. And on to our next slide. You've already taken the first big step in joining us tonight, whether you're a parent or potential student. And the next step that we ask of you is to really start imagining yourself developing lifelong friends and mentors, redefining home and the classroom, and unveiling, like Maddie said, the most authentic version of yourself. Embracing this on-the-move, academically immersive lifestyle for over 100 days while being supported by an awesome community will affect the way you return home. I know it did for me. I know it did for every single one of my fellow students who returned from my cohort in 2013. And I can't recommend it enough as a former student and now staff.
Lovely, thank you, Anne. So how to make it all happen? I would love everyone in this little Zoom room to feel that why and pursue an application for yourself or your daughter. Our application lives on our Apply Now page on the website, which I think Anne can also link into that chat. Our spring 22 semester is still open. We have a few more spots to fill and we're excited to fill them. And like I've been saying, we're intentional about filling them. So we don't want to just fill them with anyone. And that's why we still have a few left. That said, we do want to respect the turnaround time for a February start. So if you are interested in this coming spring semester, which would be from February to May, please get your application in. We're saying by the end of November to review, and then ideally we can know our full list by that first week of December. If you are interested in applying for a scholarship for this coming spring, that's a little bit more pressing of a timeline. So head to our Affording a Semester page on the website and fill out your FACS application as soon as possible so that our scholarship review committee can get an answer for you and an official award. With any application for scholarship, we will not just look objectively at your family's income. We'll have you speak with Jennifer Royal, our head of school, and she'll get a holistic picture of, what's your income as it relates to your medical expenses for the year. Maybe something's come up in the past year that changes your spending. Maybe you're sending a student to college this year, and obviously that's a big expense that you're incurring. So we want to get as full of a picture of your economic status, your financial status as possible, so that we can support you and make, again, our semesters as accessible as possible to folks. If you are interested in next year, so fall 22 and spring 23, our application deadline is February 15th. And after that, we'll be continuing to accept on a rolling basis, depending on what those numbers look like at the end of February. All right, so with that, I'm going to stop sharing this screen so that we can all feel a little bit more connected. I'd love to start off just with a couple questions to Anne, and you all can start typing questions for Anne as well in the chat. Again, you can do that privately to me or to everyone if you don't mind everyone seeing them. And then after we hear some of Anne's stories, we'll open it up to all sorts of nuts and bolts questions. So keep the questions coming, we'll keep track of them, and hopefully we'll get to all of them. And if we don't, again, we're a phone call or email away. So Anne, one thing that I want to hear from you is I hear a lot about girls describing this idea of not changing on semester, but evolving. And that's why I love that phrasing of unveiling the most authentic version of yourself. You're not changing, but you're just discovering new layers. Do you feel like your traveling school semester was a big part of your evolution or your growth and self-awareness? And did it dictate your interests post-college, your choice in college? Talk to us a little bit about this idea of growth and finding new layers in yourself and how it affected your life after the traveling school.
Yeah, I think that's a really great question. I do agree that I didn't change, but I did sort of grow into myself in a really recognizable way. I remember my parents and close friends and family remarking on it when I got home. I think the traveling school really helped me understand how capable I was at that pivotal age where more girls need to be told that they are capable of anything. For really the first time in my life, I saw myself as a leader, and not only a leader, but a member of, at risk of being cliche, a larger global community. It helped me understand my privilege and my power and how I can leverage those two to enact positive change. And it also, in terms of college and career, it definitely affected that. It made me actively seek out opportunities to be in community with other women. So in college, that looked like applying to my university's women's leadership program, which was a living learning community for first-year students. And in it felt like a little extension of the traveling school in a lovely way. And since then, I would say it's impacted every job I've held since, from working with Latinx dairy workers in Vermont to leading backpacking trips and ski instructing. The best way I can describe it is that it's a little bit of a snowball effect, I think, the traveling school.
I couldn't agree more. And I'll just add to that, seeing students from my semesters now 2 years ago and how much the semester affected what they're up to now. I mean, these girls are diving headfirst into amazing positions in public health or aid or, women's health, women's advocacy. It's really incredible. And I like to think and really do believe that it was the content they were engaging with on semester that helped spark that idea, if not give them the support and push that they needed to pursue that idea that might have already been planted. And I think with college too, sometimes the hesitancy is, will it look weird on my application? Will I be behind in classes? Colleges at this point know what semester schools are. They're excited about the experience that you get on a semester program. And if anything, it just bumps it up. And in addition to that, the teacher relationships that you create on semester are so much more impactful for, whether it's letters of recommendation or just role modelship that is always a phone call away after your semester to ask questions. Does this job feel good? I'm stuck right now. Can you give me some guidance? I think I've written every college letter of recommendation for every student that I've had, and it's one of my biggest joys just because of how well I do get to know them. With that, and can you speak a little bit to what the student teacher relationship is and perhaps how that felt different from your traditional school?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that there are a number of differences purely because of the structure of the traveling school, but most notably is the amount that they cared. Because not only are they teachers, they're your mentors, they're your fellow cooks. Some days they're a shoulder to cry on, like it's going to happen. And I think that one of the main reasons that you're able to get that close and get that individualized learning experience that is so valuable is purely this teacher-student ratio. So I went from a teacher-student ratio of about, like, I would say average 1 to 32 standard size in my sending high school. And I went from that to 1 to 4. And it made all the difference. I'm still in contact with my teachers. I still see one every winter when we ski instruct together up on a mountain, and she walks me through the process like it were 8 years ago and we were still in Southern Africa.
Awesome. And my final question for you is, what words of wisdom do you have to the group of folks that we have with us? Anyone that's considering an application, might be teetering on the edge, what would you say to them?
If you're teetering on the edge, I would say take that leap. If you think that UNTTS, the traveling school, would be a good fit, take that leap. I think there's so many what ifs, and there's similar what ifs to the questions that I had going into my semester. What if I don't get along with the other girls? What if classes are incredibly hard? What if I can't keep up on backpacking trips? And what if I can't afford it? And I think that after being accepted to the program, I stopped paying attention to all those doubts and really took that big jump outside of my comfort zone. It wasn't a step outside of my comfort zone, it was really a jump. And it remains, I've already mentioned this, but it remains one of the best decisions that I've ever made. A traveling school semester has transformative powers. I'm not the first one to say that, nor will I be the last. And I'm really so proud of the incredible, confident, change-making women that graduate from our program and take on life with what looks to me like a renewed sense of self and purpose. So if you're teetering, take that leap.
Love it. Couldn't agree more. All right, we will turn it over to you all. Thank you. I know some of you emailed me or filled out questions on that registration form with questions, and I've already gotten a couple directed my way. If you have any questions that have popped up in the last little bit, get them into the chat. And again, if we can't get to them, we will be sure to follow up on email. One that I really loved was, and maybe Ann and I can tag team this, but speaking to the social dynamics of a program. So acknowledging that, we've had programs as small as 8 girls and as large as 18 girls. We try to keep it to, actually, my favorite number is 10 right now, because my semester was only 12. And I think that was awesome. One semester that I led was 18, and it felt a little bit big at sometimes. We as teachers take the cohort really seriously and take the group dynamics really seriously, acknowledging that some of that hesitation before your semester can totally be, what if I don't like someone? What if my tent mate is also my science project partner and she's the one that's driving me crazy right now? What if someone is just mean to me or disrespectful or makes me feel excluded? Those are things that we like to nip in the bud as soon as possible. So as teachers, we are creating a community contract. Week 1, we're outlining our expectations and kind of our bottom lines with what it looks like to stay on semester, and operating under the knowledge that everyone wants to stay on semester. That's usually the positive carrot at the end of the stick of just like, we don't stand for racist comments. We don't stand for exclusivity, and we'll have strike policies for certain things, but then also no tolerance policies for other things. And my favorite community contract was actually on my semester 34, when we said to the girls, hey, we want you to own this. Like, we want you to build this so that you believe in it and are excited to sign it. Here are, I think we had like 15 different examples of community contracts, everything from, like governmental constitution type things of what can fly, to religious documents outlining what works in that religion. And then also in in more non-traditional communities. And they decided to create their own 10 commandments, they called them. And it was the 10 commandments of TTS 34. And they built them, and they gave us this hilarious play presenting on them. And they signed this big whiteboard that held all of them. We took a photo of it, and we ended up resketching it on the side of our vans that semester, so that it was always there and it was an easy thing to turn to. If something came up in terms of conflict, we could say, hey, that's not following commandment number 6. Let's have a circle up and talk about it. And also having things like that, having every Thursday night we had a reflective circle where we would pass the power object, and you had certain speaking time, and you had to practice stepping up and stepping back and using your voice well, and talk through the hard stuff. We also had a whole independent life skills class on conflict resolution and how to bring up something that's feeling hard to you to the girl that you might be sharing a tent with, or processing something about with your identity or whatever it might be. So I think creating those spaces, making it feel as safe as possible so that they can then flourish and thrive and not feel in any way doubtful of the wind that's at their back supporting them. Another question, maybe a quicker one to answer, is what does communication look like? And I know that we are also running into time, so maybe we'll just answer one or so more. And if you have to head out, no offense taken, we'll get you the recording of this and follow up on email. But what does communication look like? We try to get girls on the phone. That can look like Zoom, FaceTime, normal audio call once every 14 days. And that will be just 30 minutes long. It'll just be with immediate family. If you want to surprise your daughter one week with a couple of her friends or neighbors or partner or whatever, we allow that. We also coordinate with any separated or divorced parents to accommodate 2 separate phone calls. We won't quite get into the territory of like, oh, my friend Emily is calling at 5:45 and then my friend Sarah is calling at 7:15. It'll usually be a standard 30 minutes for everyone once every 14 days. And then of course, writing letters, you'll have a fair amount of post office stops along the route, and halfway through the semester, Jennifer and Anj, our head of school and academic dean, will come down, say hello, and deliver one big package of mail. And then after that, you'll just make it through to the end without mail until you get back home. And do you see any questions that you want to answer?
Let's see. I think that we received one beforehand about cost and affording the traveling school.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
Yeah. I am really excited about this question, oddly enough, because it's why I was hired for the traveling school as our development assistant. Our mission, the development team's mission, is entirely helping make the traveling school more affordable. So this year, We distributed over $90,000 in just for this past semester, excuse me, in financial aid, including our first ever full scholarship. And that we're really proud to have been able to do that. Like I mentioned earlier, between 40 to 60%, depending on the semester, of students receive need-based financial aid. We also have launched a gear fleet where we've stocked up on semester essentials like backpacking backpacks, sleeping pads, sleeping bags, warm layers, so that those extra costs, the gear that you need to participate in a traveling school semester, those extra costs are not prohibitive. And Maddie has more answers about the FACTS financial aid application and fundraising plans. So I can turn that over to you, Maddie, if you want to touch on that. But we're proud of where we're going.
Yeah, I'll just add, if you have any questions about our scholarship application, send us an email. Like I said, we want that conversation to be started, and we don't want you to see the number and feel like it can't happen. I have some really amazing stories of just what past students of mine have done also to fundraise. So even if the award that you get from the traveling school doesn't feel good for your family, matching what they can provide, know that we have had some really incredible successes with just things like GoFundMe's or Witty Up, or there's just so many platforms these days where you can pitch an idea, use your talent for something, and have a global community of donors support you in that. So it doesn't mean that if you're not from a wealthy community, it's not just knocking on doors of your neighbors who can easily write you a $5,000 check. It's deeper than that. We acknowledge that fundraising can be really challenging. And we have a lot of ideas. We've also built a lot of partnerships this past year with brands and organizations that are on our team to support people. So yeah, I have a lot of stories. I have a lot of strategies. And if you want any of those specifics, you can also go to, I had a cool conversation with some of my students who fundraised. It's on our YouTube page. Maybe Anne can link it. I think it's also on the Affording a Semester page, but more informal chat with me and 3 former students. And they just kind of outlined what they did. One of them raised $28,000, and that was pretty amazing. With that, I do want to start wrapping up. I know that we've talked your ears off, and I appreciate your patience and everyone's still sticking it out through the end, but you probably have more exciting things to go on to. So we'll wrap up. My email I will put in the chat, and most of you should have it by now, but mjohnson@travelingschool.com. Please send me any questions, any follow-ups. I'm always available for a phone call. I'll even just put my cell phone number right in this chat as well, because we love chatting and starting these conversations. If you are interested in spring 22, get your applications in as soon as you can. And if you're more interested in the following school year, fall 22 and spring 23, look forward to getting that application in just before February 15th. But if you apply earlier than that, we do try to move through those applications on a rolling basis as well and get you some answers. And with that, just a big thank you and gratitude for all of you joining us. I love to see some familiar faces, and look forward to connecting with you all over email, on the phone, or perhaps another Zoom meeting. So thank you all so much, and have a great rest of your night.
Thanks, everyone.